Fate of Mellichae is an original heroic instance on SWG Legends. It was added to the game in May 2025 with the Rise of the Forgotten update. Currently, it is considered one of the most difficult raids for the fan emulators endgame player versus environment content. Let's go over preparation and strategy so you too can bring balance to the Force. Fate of Mellichae has two different encounters, Light Side and Dark Side. Player characters can only complete one of the encounters per galactic day, with each rewarding its own unique token of heroism on completion. Both reward the Fate of Mellichae loot box, so the looted rewards may be the same. While each version of the instance plays out differently, the required prerequisites, group composition, and method of entering the heroic are the same. Player characters will need to have already defeated Sinya Nilum in order to enter the instance. If your instance information, not flagged for section, does not show heroic Sinya Nilum, but does show heroic Fate of Mellichae, then you will be able to enter the instance. The Fate of Mellichae not flagged for message will disappear once you enter the instance for the first time. Jedis will need to have defeated Sinya Nilum and return to Master Quinn after opening their Holocron of the Force during the Jedi theme park. This restriction applies to all Jedi members of the group. Jedi who don't meet both of these requirements will not be able to enter the instance. The following is the recommended group composition for the Fate of Mellichae. The instance can be completed with a different selection of roles and character builds, but this setup seems to yield a higher rate of success for players. First, the group needs at least one Jedi in order to enter the instance, start the encounter, and activate the optional Sith Altar fight. This Jedi is usually responsible for being the group's tank and uses a light side Jedi build. The Guardian's jewelry set is recommended for this instance, as Sweep 8 and Guardian Strike help significantly with managing the enemy's attention, especially when foes are immune to damage during portions of the encounters. Lightside Jedi's new heroic abilities, namely Force Heal Other and Force Shield, also help keep the group alive during the more dangerous moments. Next, the group needs one medic who has the special ability Serotonin Purge trained in the Medic Specialization Expertise tree. Thyroid Rupture is highly recommended to help reduce outgoing damage from the boss, but isn't required as long as there is at least one other damage-reducing debuff on the boss, like a Pet's Enfeeble or a Smuggler's Spot a Sucker. This is some of the hardest content in the game to heal, so the First Responder's jewelry set is strongly recommended. An officer with the General's Aspect jewelry set is required to keep action available for everyone. Their group buffs and paint target ability are invaluable for this fight in terms of keeping people alive and maximizing group damage. A spy with all of the relevant buffs, debuffs, and damage over time enhancements is strongly recommended for this instance. The NPCs here have very high armor ratings and defensive role values, making savagery and resonance useful in overcoming these hurdles. Assassin's Mark and Advanced Strikes will maximize the group's damage, and the massive health bars in this fight give the spy plenty of time to ramp up a very powerful damage over time effect with improved Spy's Fang. Two commandos are strongly recommended for both versions of Fate of Mellichae. They simplify phases in both versions of the instance, and they can stack armor break debuffs and heavy weapon damage over time effects on enemies even when the NPCs are immune to damage. This makes burning enemies down much faster when they inevitably become vulnerable to attack. Ideally, one commando should use a cold heavy weapon, like the CR1 or CR2 blast cannons, and one should use heat, specifically the GLX Fire Lance. The remaining two group slots are dedicated to damage dealers, ideally a smuggler and a third commando. Due to softened rage timers that exist in some phases of the fight, groups prefer to only bring one bounty hunter or one more Jedi at most when filling the last group slot. This is because the potential damage output in long encounters for these two professions tend to be noticeably lower than other combat professions. If the group brings a second Jedi, then they'll often request a dark side user, as they can deal a good portion of their damage while using a ranged weapon, which is a requirement for one of the strategies we'll cover later. Entering this heroic is a little different than others. First, the group should run down to the heroic's entrance together while clearing enemies along the way for safety. Once there, a worthy Jedi will need to click the entrance obelisk first before the rest of the group can click it and enter. In the event group members need to leave the instance before it is completed, you'll want to keep at least 4 players inside the heroic at all times. If there are less than 4 players inside the instance, it will close, eject the current occupants, and the player characters won't be able to re-enter until the galactic day is over. The safest way to get back to the instance is for group members to move to the entrance together as a party of 4, defeating any enemies in front of them. Alternatively, players can use the burst run buff from either the Sprint Enhancement Stem or Dull Gourd from the Witches of the Dathomir theme park vendor to run past the enemies on the entry ramp and quickly click on the obelisk. For the light side version of this encounter, players should have full energy and elemental armor protection in their Entertainer buff, as these will be the primary sources of damage for this encounter. A Jedi can activate this version of their heroic by opening the radio menu on the ancient altar of choice and selecting Join the Light Side. Throughout this encounter, Mellichae will be using the ability Saber Reflect. Their group will be warned when Mellichae is about to activate Saber Reflect via a system message that appears in the center of the screen and in the chat box. Group members should call out when Saber Reflect is about to appear to help warn those who may have missed the message. Reflect. Medics will need to target Mellichae and use Serotonin Purge to remove Saber Reflect as soon as possible. This is to protect group members from taking reflected damage and eliminate time that would be spent waiting for Saber Reflect to deactivate. Once the medic has purged Saber Reflect, they should call it out in voice chat so group members know that they can resume attacking. Purged. I recommend medics make a macro to target Mellichae and place it on their active toolbar to make targeting him easier. Until Saber Reflect is removed from Mellichae, players will need to hold back on damaging Mellichae. Commandos with Killing Spree active need to completely stop firing to avoid having its effect reflected. Light Side Jedi with their own Saber Reflect active will need to right-click it off their buff bar to prevent having their reflection reflected back at them. While some area of effect attacks aren't reflected, some are, like the application of a medic's nerve gas, so I recommend holding back on those abilities if Mellichae is in your attack's range while Saber Reflect is active. Everyone will group up on the tanking Jedi who will initiate the fight near the middle outside of the combat arena's center. Once the fight begins, Mellichae will periodically summon a large red circle on the group. Once the red circle appears, everyone should run to the left until they're just outside of the circle. Then they should stack back up on the Jedi and repeat this pattern for the remainder of the phase. Players inside of the large circle will continuously take big waves of damage. A fully buffed and healed character can take at most 2 pulses of full damage before being slain, so keeping your own health topped off during this phase is essential in the case you don't escape the circle fast enough. Smaller red circles and fire will appear on the floor throughout this phase, but aren't as threatening, so don't worry about dodging them. Maintaining the group's stacked formation is essential to managing the larger, more dangerous red circles. Officers should maintain either the charge or scatter buffs throughout this phase for the increased movement speed to help group members escape the circle faster. Medics should help keep group members near max health so players can take at least 1 circle pulse. Everyone should be ready to heal themselves if they don't make it out of the large circle in time. The end of phases are marked by Mellichae healing himself or becoming unattackable, and him shouting in spatial chat. When this phase begins, everyone will move to the center of the arena with Mellichae. Again, the group will want to stack closely on the tanking Jedi. Mellichae will periodically summon a massive area of effect that will pulse 5 times, dealing damage to everyone in the group. After the first pulse, all group members should use their self-healing abilities and Officer Stim-Pack to recover from the attack. After the second pulse, the medic should use Back to Spray to refill the group's health. While Back to Spray is on cooldown, the medic will want to use Back to Ample to manage incoming damage on everyone and use Back to Bomb for the member who lost the most health. While not busy healing, the medic should maintain Thyroid Rupture on Mellichae to reduce the damage of his outgoing AoE. If a Beastmaster is present, they should favor using a pet with the Enfeeble ability to further cut the outgoing damage during this phase. Insects are the most recommended here, as Mellichae doesn't mitigate poison damage as well as other damage sources, so the insect's damage poison ability ends up being an excellent source of damage. If there is a second Beastmaster, then they should be using a pet with a Shaken ability to help increase the group's damage output. Smugglers with the full Spot a Sucker line in the Scoundrel expertise tree, and bounty hunters with the Dread Strike ability from the Bounty Hunting expertise tree should also be regularly applying these debuffs on Mellichae during this phase. Unique sources of damage reduction stack in this game, so the more the better. Professions with strong defensive cooldowns, like Commandos with Stand Fast and Spies with Avoid Damage, should proactively use these cooldowns to reduce the amount of healing required during this phase. Jedi shouldn't forget to use their heroic-only abilities to help protect the group and push more damage. Light Side Jedi are encouraged to regularly use Force Heal Other and Force Shield to reduce the medic's healing burden, while Dark Side Jedi want to add Force Weaken and Force Mind Blast to their rotation. Mellichae sends out 5 pulses roughly 18 seconds after the previous set ends. He'll repeat this pattern until the group pushes him to Phase 3. When the phase changes, the entire group will retreat to the light bridge they crossed earlier. 2 commandos will take position on the main platform while putting the width of the bridge between them. The medic will stand in between the 2 commandos. If your group doesn't have 2 commandos, then you should choose 2 players with a similar damage output. Ideally, they would be of the same profession with similar gear and expertise setup, like 2 Jedis or 2 Spies. When ready, each commando will begin attacking one of the 2 Sith Shadow Fanatics that have appeared near the center of the arena. The commandos will need to lower the Fanatic's health at the same rate, similar to Uruk and Besh HK units in the Operational Droid Factory instance. If the Fanatic's current hit points have a difference greater than 25,000 for too long, then they will incapacitate the entire group, heal themselves, and return to their starting positions. If the Fanatics aren't killed within 5,000 hit points of each other, then the phase will reset and force the group to start over from the beginning of the phase. For consistency, the Commandos should limit their damage rotation to auto-attacking, Armor Shredder, and Burn Down special abilities. If one Commando gets too far ahead of the other, then they should stop auto-attacking their Fanatic, but continue to use Armor Shredder and Burn Down to maintain their armor break and dot stacks. Commandos can also consider matching elements, like both using heat or electricity heavy weapons, to reduce the chance of mismatching each other's damage. Critical hits and devastation rolls will introduce some variance to this process, so the Commandos or other group members should be monitoring the health of each Fanatic and calling out health totals periodically to help Commandos know when to slow down or speed up their damage. You can view a target's current hit points by mousing over their health bar. There are also UI mods in the community to get numbers to appear on the nameplate too. If one Commando seems to be falling behind the other consistently, then another damage dealer should help out by using a special ability or landing a few auto attacks on the Fanatic with more health as needed. Medics should be healing both Commandos throughout this entire phase, as they will be taking a considerable amount of damage from the Fanatics. Other group members should help reduce or mitigate damage where they can to reduce the healing burden for the medic. Jedi should activate Saber Block and use Saber Intercept on the Commandos to reduce and spread out the damage. Light side Jedi should maintain Force Shield on the Commandos and use Force Heal Other when they can. Damage reducing and negative offensive effects should be maintained on the Fanatics to further reduce the amount of healing needed for players. Officers should continue to deploy rally points, cycle scatter, and charge buffs, and periodically use the Pistol Drill Master buff to refill the group's action pools. A system message stating the Sith Shadow Fanatics have been successfully defeated will appear when the group has completed this phase. The Jedi will tank Mellichae in the middle of the arena. Everyone else will position themselves on the same side of the boss. Mellichae will randomly pick one player character and create a lightsaber-wielding doppelganger of them. While the clone is alive, Mellichae will be immune to incoming damage, so everyone in the group should focus on defeating the clone when it appears. The clone will copy the chosen player's appearance and active buffs, so medics can strip the buffs with Serotonin Purge if they've recently removed Saber Reflect from Mellichae. Otherwise, medics should save their Serotonin Purge for Mellichae's Saber Reflect, as that's the higher priority. Occasionally, Mellichae will target a player and shoot a line of lightning at them. If the clone is in between the targeted player and Mellichae, it will take damage from Mellichae's lightning attack. This is why the group should be stacking on the same side of the boss, as hitting clones with Mellichae's lightning will make this phase go faster. Fire will appear on the floor during this phase and should be avoided. When the clone is defeated, the group should refocus all of their damage on Mellichae. Mellichae will continue to periodically summon clones of the players until he's pushed to the next phase. Fire will continue to appear on the floor throughout this phase and should be avoided. Everyone will move to either the east or west side of the arena center. 5 Sith Shadow Inquisitors will spawn around the west, south, and east side of the platform center. While the Inquisitors are alive, Mellichae will be invulnerable to damage, so all 5 must be defeated before focusing the group's attack back on Mellichae. When the Inquisitors first appear, they will be immune to ranged damage, so players should switch to melee weapons if they're able to. After roughly 20 seconds, the Inquisitors will become immune to melee weapons, but gain vulnerability to ranged weapons. After another 20 seconds, the Inquisitors will become vulnerable to both ranged and melee weapons. The group should focus on defeating one Inquisitor at a time by starting on one side of the center and working down the line to the opposite side. Commandos can start this phase by stacking armor breaks and dot effects on the Inquisitors later in the kill order, since Commandos won't be doing much damage while the Inquisitors are immune to ranged attacks. Once all of the Inquisitors are defeated, everyone should refocus on Mellichae. If the group doesn't push Mellichae to his last phase quickly, then another group of 5 Inquisitors will appear and need to be defeated to make Mellichae vulnerable to damage again. Each time a group of Inquisitors spawn, Mellichae will gain 1 stack of the Frenzy buff, making him hit harder and faster. The medic cannot purge this buff, so the group will want to avoid letting too many waves of Inquisitors appear. For the last phase, everyone will stack in the middle of the arena. Mellichae will call 5 Sith Shadow Ritualists to aid him. These Ritualists should be focused and defeated by the group first. Mellichae himself will be immune to damage until the Old Man appears to weaken him. Once Mellichae is vulnerable, everyone should activate offensive cooldowns and expend all of their attacks to defeat him as fast as possible. If Mellichae isn't defeated at the first opportunity the Old Man provides, the group will have to wait until the Old Man makes Mellichae vulnerable again. During this phase, a second group of Ritualists may appear to help Mellichae. If Mellichae is close to defeat and vulnerable, the group should maintain focus on him, as the Ritualists will disappear when the boss is defeated. Otherwise, the group should switch to the Ritualists while they wait for the Old Man to make Mellichae vulnerable again. Congratulations, you defeated Mellichae and returned balance to the Force. Hopefully. For the dark side version of this instance, players should have full kinetic and elemental armor protection in their Entertainer buff, as these will be the primary sources of damage for this encounter. The first phase of the heroic will require players to coordinate and attack vulnerable targets simultaneously. One player should be designated ahead of time with the responsibility of calling out the names of the vulnerable targets as they appear. The rest of the players should create a macro with the command /assist followed by the name of the player's character who is calling out the vulnerable targets, and place the macro on their active toolbar. Activating this macro will have your character automatically acquire whatever target the set player is targeting, which makes switching to the vulnerable NPC easier. A Jedi can activate this version of the heroic by opening the radio menu on the Ancient Altar of Choice and selecting Join the Dark Side. Throughout this encounter, the Old Man will be using the ability Saber Reflect. The group will be warned when the Old Man is about to activate Saber Reflect via a system message that appears in the center of the screen and in the chat box. Group members should call out when Saber Reflect is about to appear to help warn those who may have missed the message. Reflect. Medics will need to target the Old Man and use Serotonin Purge to remove Saber Reflect as soon as possible. This is to protect group members from taking reflected damage and eliminate time that would be spent waiting for Saber Reflect to deactivate. Once the medic has purged Saber Reflect, they should call it out in voice chat so the group knows that they can resume attacking. Purged. Unlike Mellichae, target macros don't work on the Old Man because his name starts with Un, so you'll need to tab target him, or click his nameplate when it appears as a target. Until Saber Reflect is removed from the Old Man, players will need to hold back on damaging him. Commandos with Killing Spree active need to completely stop firing to avoid having its effect reflected. Light Side Jedi with their own Saber Reflect active will need to right-click it off their buff bar to prevent having their reflection reflected back at them. While some area of effect attacks aren't reflected, some are, like the application of a medic's nerve gas, so I recommend holding back on those abilities if the Old Man is in your attack's range while Saber Reflect is active. There are two different common strategies for this first phase. Let's first cover the more recommended method. The group should stand on top of each other roughly halfway between the entry door and the light bridge. The tanking Jedi should stand roughly 10 meters away from the group, preferably closer to the light bridge, and the medic should stand about 10 meters apart from both the Jedi and the rest of the group. Once everyone is ready and in position, a Beastmaster will use their pet to target and pull one of the 5 named Jedi standing on the corners of the center platform. This will begin the encounter and also cause the Old Man to attack. The Beastmaster should wait a few moments before attempting to pull a second named Jedi, as some may have already joined the fight but have not moved to attack yet. The Beastmaster should also try to prevent the pet from moving across the bridge or too far into the center platform, as this has a tendency to pull 4 of the 5 Jedi at once. The tanking Jedi will maintain the attention of the Old Man and any of the additional named Jedi currently in the fight. While these 5 named Jedi are alive, the Old Man will be immune to all damage. However, all of the named Jedi maintain barriers that make them nearly immune to all incoming damage too. During this phase, one named Jedi will have their barrier momentarily fail. When this happens, the previously designated player will identify, target, and call out the name of the Jedi so the rest of the group can switch to the vulnerable target. After a period of time, the barrier will reactivate on the named Jedi and another named Jedi will become vulnerable. The reason the group stacks during this phase is in the case one of the NPCs get away from the tanking Jedi, the NPC will still stay in range of AoE effects and group members using melee weapons. The group, medic, and Jedi stand apart from each other because the AoE attacks from the named Jedi can deal considerable damage. Fewer people getting hit by their sweeps will make healing this phase much easier for the medic. No group members should be standing at or behind the pillars that flank the heroic's entrance. Being too close to the entry door may cause the fight to reset as the player has moved beyond the leash distance of the NPCs. The medic may need to refrain from using back to burst at the start of the fight to reduce the amount of healing hate they're initially generating. Once the tanking Jedi has gained a hate lead on other group members, you'll be safe to heal as normal. Stacking the named Jedi is the fastest way to complete this phase, as it allows commandos to continually apply armor break and dot stacks on all enemies while focusing the vulnerable target. This lets damage get rolling faster once the target becomes vulnerable, and dots will still deal damage to the named Jedi while their barrier is active, albeit at a significantly reduced amount. Unless the group is confident in their damage output and survivability, they should avoid having more than 2 named Jedi active in the fight at a single time. This is to help manage outgoing damage and avoid massive hits from simultaneous sweeps from the named Jedi. That's the first and most recommended strategy, as it mitigates risk while helping the group optimize their damage output. If the group doesn't have a means of pulling the named Jedi from a significant distance, but are confident in the group's damage and survivability, then they can simply run to the middle of the center platform, start the fight, and stack all of the NPCs in one spot on the tanking Jedi. The rest of the group should still put roughly 10 meters between them and the tanking Jedi to avoid AoEs and control the NPC's positioning. If the group can't pull the named Jedi remotely and are less confident, then they'll want to assign one damage dealer, preferably a ranged profession, to each of the named Jedi. When the fight starts, the tanking Jedi will hold the old man in the center of the arena, and the assigned damage dealers will stack on their assigned named Jedi around the center of the arena, roughly 15 meters from the tanking Jedi. Those players will then focus on attacking their assigned NPC when none of the named Jedis are vulnerable, in an effort to maintain its attention and keep it separate from the others. Once a named Jedi becomes vulnerable, all the damage dealers will switch over to that target and attack them. Melee damage dealers should be free to roam between the vulnerable targets. Due to the barrier's damage-reducing effect, damage dealers will have a hard time generating more hate than the medic's healing creates. Medics should be extra careful about healing too much when the group is using this strategy, otherwise they'll get the attention of multiple named Jedi. The tanking Jedi is free to also move to the vulnerable named Jedi to help with damage while the old man follows them around. If one or two of the named Jedi lose focus on their assigned target, such as jumping on the medic, then the tanking Jedi should grab the named Jedi's attention and keep them in the center of the arena with the old man. Once the last named Jedi is defeated, the tanking Jedi should move the old man to the center of the main platform. The medic and ranged damage dealers should find spots around the center of the arena roughly 30 meters apart from each other, but still within their weapons range of the boss. Medics should stand 25 meters from the tanking Jedi so back to spray will still reach them. Melee damage dealers can stay on the old man until the phase changes. The end of phases are marked by the old man healing himself, or becoming unattackable, and him shouting in spatial chat. At the start of this phase, melee damage dealers will switch to a ranged weapon and find a spot at least 30 meters apart from the group members who have already found positions around the arena. The tanking Jedi will remain in the center of the arena with the old man. Throughout this phase, two really big circles will appear periodically. Each circle will be centered on one of two randomly chosen players. If you have a red circle appear at your feet, you should stand still and take the hit. After taking damage, you'll see a blue pool appear under your feet, which will apply a buff increasing any healing you receive for a few seconds. Once you see this blue pool, you should use your self-healing abilities and Officer Stim Pack to fill your health up before the next pair of red circles appear. The area of effect for these red circles is massive, so running out of them isn't an option for most professions, which is why we opt to take the damage instead of avoiding it. Players will not survive if they take damage from both of the red circles, so staying separate and refraining from moving around is vital to the group's survival. Circles will not appear on pets, so they're fine to leave attacking the boss. The Force will begin to float around areas of the arena looking like whirlwinds of glitter dust. Everyone in the group will want to periodically run through these stars to obtain and maintain a buff that will protect them from damage during this phase. Force glitter dust in the middle of the arena should be left for the tanking Jedi and melee damage rolls to pick up, while glitter dust on the outer portion of the center platform should be grabbed by ranged damage dealers and the medic. Leaving the central appearances of Force glitter dust and the tanking Jedi only moving when necessary allows the melee damage rolls to keep their damage rotations going more consistently during this phase. At the start of this phase, everyone should run inside the same blue circle when they appear. While the location of these circles are random, one seems to always appear in this spot in the northeast area of the center arena. Planning to move here at the start of the phase makes it easier for the group to meet up in the same circle. Once everyone is in the circle, the 4 spirits that appeared will become vulnerable to damage. Their group should focus on defeating these spirits first, as the old man will be immune to damage if the spirits are active. The group can return to attacking the old man once the spirits are defeated. Once the spirits are defeated, the tanking Jedi can move the old man back to the center of the arena in preparation for the next phase. Objects named Force Relics will appear randomly around the center platform throughout this phase. Ranged damage dealers and the medic will focus on destroying these relics as they appear. When a relic is destroyed, it will deal 50,000 damage directly to the old man. This damage will ignore the old man's defenses, so destroying these relics is the best way to deal a lot of damage to the old man quickly. If a relic isn't destroyed, then it will heal the old man, prolonging this phase of the encounter. When no Force relics are present in the arena, the ranged damage dealers should turn their attention back to the old man. The tanking Jedi and melee damage rolls should keep their attention on the old man so they can maintain their own damage rotations. The tanking Jedi should refrain from moving the old man to prevent interrupting the melee damage professions. For the last phase, everyone will stack in the middle of the arena. The old man will call 5 Elder Jedi to aid him. These Jedi should be focused and defeated by their group first. The old man himself will be immune to damage until Mellichae appears to weaken him. Once the old man is vulnerable, everyone should activate offensive cooldowns and expend all of their attacks to defeat him as fast as possible. If the old man isn't defeated at the first opportunity Mellichae provides, the group will have to wait until Mellichae makes the old man vulnerable again. During this phase, a second group of Jedi may appear to help the old man. If the old man is close to defeat and vulnerable, the group should maintain focus on him as the Jedi will disappear when the boss is defeated. Otherwise, the group should switch to the Elder Jedi while they wait for Mellichae to make the old man vulnerable again. Congratulations, you've defeated the old man and helped Mellichae assert the dark side's dominance over the light. The Fate of Mellichae Heroic has an optional encounter referred to as the Sith Altar. After the group defeats either Mellichae or the old man, they can cross back over the bridge on the north side of the arena and run around to the south side of the outer platform. Here, a Jedi will need to meditate before the Sith Altar and use the radial menu to place the 5 following items on it: Ardanium 2 Energy, Force Amplification Crystal, Holocron Splinters, Austrian Ore, and Wind Crystal Energy. These items can be looted from the Sith Shadow cultists throughout the Dark Jedi Temple and received as rewards from the Kazash, Sinya, and Fate of Mellichae loot boxes. Once all 5 items are placed on the altar, a timer will begin signaling the start of the crafting process. While the altar is working, the group will need to defend themselves from 4 waves of Dark Juggernauts. The Juggernauts will spawn in groups of 3 at set intervals of time. If your group can't defeat them quickly, then you may find yourself dealing with 4 or more Juggernauts at once. Each Juggernaut will be weak to one of 4 elements as indicated by the buff under their nameplate. Everyone, except the Commandos, should swap their weapons to the matching element to deal bonus damage to the Juggernauts they're currently targeting. Commandos should remain on their assigned heavy weapon to maintain the number of damage over time effects stacking on enemies. Everyone in the group should focus on the Juggernaut that is currently under the effect of the Officer's Paint Target debuff. This debuff is a significant damage increase to the encounter due to how the Juggernauts mitigate damage, which will help clear the waves faster. The tanking Jedi should keep the Juggernauts stacked in one place so area of effect attacks have maximum effect. If a wave of Dark Juggernauts appear before you complete the previous, the group should focus on defeating the weakest Juggernauts first to reduce their numbers as quickly as possible. By the time the 4th wave of Juggernauts are defeated, the altar's crafting process should be complete. The Jedi can meditate before the altar again and claim their Sith Holocron, which will reveal the reward. The Sith Altar can produce schematics for pieces of the armor Dark Juggernauts wear, but more importantly, can reward the Jedi with either the new Light Jedi or Dark Jedi Elder robes. While only the Jedi can claim the altar's reward, the rest of the group still stands to profit from this optional fight, as each Dark Juggernaut can drop schematics for Jedi-themed furniture and perfect power crystals, which are the best in slot power crystals for lightsabers. That's the entirety of the Fate of Mellichae Heroic. Let me know what loot you hope to win in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more Star Wars Galaxies content like this. Extra thanks goes to my YouTube members who got to see this video and all the others I upload early. Until next time, Galaxy, stay hungry.